I'm Trevor and I work for Evil Corp. My job is to steal money from other companies and my current target is Allgood Limited. Bob is a finance clerk at Allgood. Today he's going through all the invoices received over the last week and setting up their payments. Suddenly he comes across a final demand email. An invoice hasn't been paid, and if it isn't paid today, the supplier will start legal proceedings against Allgood. Bob checks, but he can't find the original invoice. Usually he'd bump this up to Alice, the finance director, but Alice is on holiday this week, so Bob decides to set up the payment anyway. After all, it is from a supplier he recognizes, it does have a copy of the original invoice attached, and it does have the payment details. He makes the payment of £250,000. Unfortunately, this is a spear phishing email from me, and I faked the invoice. Bob has paid the money into an account owned by Evil Corp, and now it's mine.
I'm Trevor. I don't work for Evil Corp. I'm researching ways to detect advanced spear phishing attacks. A lot of research has been done both in academia and in the business world to detect phishing emails. And it breaks down into a number of different techniques. The first one is block lists. This is basically a database of malicious URLs. It's very fast, but it won't detect zero-day attacks. That's attacks that have never been seen before. The second one is heuristics or rules. This is where we compare the URL, the email header or the content of the email to a bunch of rules. Again, it's very fast. It may possibly detect zero-day attacks, but it can be circumvented. Then we have content or visual inspection. This is where we compare a suspicious website with the actual known good website. The main difficulty here is knowing what the original known good website is. There's been a lot of work done with artificial intelligence and machine learning. And that's where we train computers to actually detect these websites or the emails. They're very good at detecting zero-day attacks, but they're very resource hungry, particularly in time, in human effort, and in computational power. In fact, one of the leading AI researchers has said, machine learning is not magic. It requires a lot of maintenance and expertise to keep running. He then goes on to say, if you can do something nearly as well without machine learning, you should probably not use it. And in fact, there is evidence to show that heuristics, human-generated rules, are almost as good as machine learning. Then we have proactive detection. And this breaks down into two areas. One is looking at the email before it arrives at the inbox. Very little work has been done on this. The second is actually trying to find malicious websites when they first come up, before they're used. And very little, if any, work has been done in this area. A couple of other detection techniques that don't really fit into these. One of them is called the round-trip network, the network round-trip time. And if you're familiar with the ping command from Unix or Windows, which detects whether a web server is up, it's very similar to that. It's how long it takes the data to get from one to the other. Very reliable if you're going to the same website, but if you happen to be going to a malicious website, that will show up. But also, if you're going from somewhere, some other location, or perhaps via a virtual private network, then this one fails. Domain-based message authentication. And this is an email authentication policy and reporting protocol. When it's correctly implemented, it accurately identifies genuine and malicious emails. It's very, very highly accurate, but its disadvantages, it has to be implemented by the sender, not the recipient of the email, and it's perceived as being very difficult to implement. And finally, we have a hybrid, which is combining several of these, and the main ones being the block lists and the heuristics. Unfortunately, although there's all this research, it's problematic. There are fundamental flaws with most of it. The first one is the researchers are assuming the attacker wants to lure victims to phishing websites where they'll inadvertently disclose their login credentials or bank details. Secondly, detection of the websites is usually done in real time, either as the end user opens the email or clicks on a link. And finally, these techniques will not detect spear phishing attacks like I described earlier, CEO fraud, or business email compromise. So my research will change this. Sorry, I've lost my place in my notes. There we go. I'm looking at using a branch of artificial intelligence called natural language processing. Natural language processing gives the computer the ability to read and understand websites and emails. In fact, Google uses it to index websites for its search engine and to understand the queries you put in. Smart speakers, the same. Chatbots and automated telephone answering systems will also try to understand your query and answer them, or at least put you in contact with somebody who can do that. So I'm going to be using NLP to help computers understand emails and spot the phishing emails. I'll be looking at two areas: semantic analysis and sentiment analysis. So semantic analysis is to do with the meaning and relationships between words. For example, does the sentence actually make sense? Is it grammatically correct? Is the spelling correct? The sentiment analysis is about the sentiment behind what is written. The feeling. Is there a sense of urgency or danger or must act now? My research is actually still in very early stages, so I've got no results to show you at the moment. But wait until next year, then perhaps I will have something. And once working, NLP could be combined with other detection methods like block lists and rules to build a highly effective phishing email shield. I'm using data sets that are publicly available. The first are HAN. These are normal emails, and they come from Spam Assassin, the Enron and Hillary Clinton investigations. Then there's spam, which also come from Spam Assassin, GitHub, and Kaggle. And then there's some phishing ones. These are the difficult ones. There's not many around. And this is where I could do with your help. I've set up an email address specifically for collecting phishing emails. If you get any, I would appreciate you sending them to phishing@mordor.org.uk. There is a joke behind that, and I haven't got time to tell it, but if you want to know, have a chat with me at lunchtime. Or you can introduce me to IT support companies who will be able to collect this information and pass it on to me.
Just the minutes, please.
Oh, sorry. It's phishing@mordor.org.uk. Members Online Repository and Directory of Resources. Okay? And finally, a blatant plug. I'm doing a talk at the Leicester Business Festival, where De Montfort University is one of the headline partners, called Hacking Humans, Spotting and Surviving Social Engineering Attacks, where I'll be talking more about phishing and other social engineering attacks. You can book online here. You don't actually have to write this down. If you search for Leicester Business Festival, go to the program of events and you'll find it there.
We will be sharing these slides, of course, with the,
So I'm Trevor Wood. I'm one of the good guys because the good guys wear white hats.